Okay, right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning again. So we are into module number 5, which is a worm. Remember, we were dealing with the worm on module 5. On module 4, that was a platyhelminthes. That means that's a group of flatworm. One thing that you should remember about flatworm is they are mostly parasitic, except the one that is where planaria are grouped in. So the rest are mostly parasite. So you would be coming back with that info during the fish disease class later on. So now we are into another worm. That is phylum Annelida. Annelida is the phylum of segmented worm. In this group of invertebrate, you will find that the body is seen with all the segment. Either even from the outside, you can see this body is being segmented. That means they are partitioned on the outside, showing the segment on from the anterior end to the posterior. Okay, and the lid are mostly comprised of group such as the earthworm, the polychaete worm, which is in the marine environment, the leeches that is in the water as well as terrestrial, and also the oligochaete, which is the tubifact. You read about ornamental fish, you will come across tubifact. So it's in the group of Annelida for this oligochaete worm. The word annulus is the Latin word, meaning that they are segmented worm. About 2/3 of the members is comprised of marine worm. This is because of the diversity of the polychaete, which is more than the other members of the annelid. Annelid are sometimes called bristle worm. This is because most of them bear a kind of structure like bristle that called setae. So this is a exception for the leeches, by the way. In terms of habitat, they can be found in marine, freshwater, as well as terrestrial. Terrestrial is the leeches as well as the earthworm. Leeches meaning the leech that is on land is the one locally known as pachat. Okay? Many freshwater marine annelid, they live in burrows, some attached to vegetation or they are free living. They feed on organic matter in the muds. Others feed on suspended particle with cilia and mucus to trap the food. Many as well as predators, meaning that they are carnivore as well, whether they are pelagic or benthic. Particularly, leeches are blood suckers. They are parasite. Few of them are carnivorous and most of them live in fresh water. Kejap ada nak masuk kot. Okay, in terms of economic importance, this phylum Annelida, most of them have role that is indirect in terms of importance. Mainly, they are more associated with the ecological role. So many members of the annelids are grazing food chain or detritus food chain, and as well as serving as prey for other organisms such as the higher group, including fish. And there are some economic importance in terms of market demand for polychaete worm, which is including the bait worm yang digunakan oleh anglers, as well as oligochaete. that is being used for ornamental fish feeding in freshwater or marine aquarium, mainly freshwater. And the burrowing activity of earthworm, as we all been told earlier during the early education stage, the burrowing will increase the drainage as well as the aeration of the soil and making the soil more fertile. So mixing of the soil and distribution of organic matter to deeper layers help with the improvement of soil fertility. Leeches, recently there have been farm that is culturing leeches for medicinal purposes. And in Malaysia at one time, there is this culturing activity too. But I think at the moment is dying out. So in the phylum Annelida, you'll find representatives such as leech or leeches and earthworm, as well as the polychaete worm. The phylum characteristic of Annelida, first, they are bilateral symmetry. That means there is a middle line that divides the animal into two equal halves. And the shape of the body is vermiform. Vermi means it's like a worm, worm form. Vermi is worm. So all shaped like a cacing in terms of body. The body wall is tripoblastic. They're made out of 3 layers of body wall with tissue and organ quite well developed. A gut with the mouth and anus, anterior mouth ending with the posterior anus. One important thing about this phylum characteristic is the body is divided into segments, or they call it metamerically segmented. So the body is divided into numerous segments. And in terms of coelom or body cavity is well developed in Annelida. You don't see that in platyhelminth. And the coelom is been divided or subdivided by the septa. So each segment has its own column or wall. It's called septa. The outer epithelium is covered by cuticle or with bristle or kete, in bundle or single, except in specimen with anterior and posterior sucker. Like the leash, they are the anterior and posterior sucker. But the oligochaete, the polychaete, normally they have a bristle or kete. Body wall muscular, and how they move is by the use of circular muscle and longitudinal muscle. Like the earthworm, they move using the body muscle layer. The blood system is closed. That means there are a tube. Respiratory gas exchange can be through the gill or the skin or through the special feet called parapodia. Most of the members are hermaphrodite or dioecious. And if in case of larval development, the only larva that you see is called trochophore. It's called trochophore. So there are 9 phylum characteristics here. And as usual, you had to remember 5. Okay, you can mark in any file that you can remember for your revision. The topic on in terms of contribution biologically, metamerism is seen something that is new in invertebrates, and it only can be seen in Annelida, and later on you can see in higher invertebrate group, which is the arthropod or arthropoda. True coelomic cavity is also well developed in Annelida, and coelom, body coelom is also characteristic of higher group of organism, including a man like us. The differentiation of the head of the anterior region with appendages like tentacles, palps, and eye spot is more advanced than what you see in platyhelminths and also in mollusca. Circulatory system is more complex. Circulatory system is for the flow of bloods into different part of the body. It is closed system with blood vessel and as a heart for propelling the blood. So it become more and more advanced as you move into higher phylum. The appearance of the feet or foot, which is especially called parapodia, and this parapodia is equipped with respiratory and locomotory function. So the parapodia is for locomotion as well as for respiration, and is the beginning of the pad appendages that you see here in Annelida, because later on you again see it in arthropoda. For the excretory function, they have a well-developed nephridia, and this is for the removal of waste from the blood. So you see in terms of organization, Annelida is much higher in advance than the platyhelminth, and they are the beginning of certain characteristics like trypoblastic and organization of the interior part into several structures to help with the feeding. And also there are the closed circulatory system, which is the characteristic of higher higher phylum. So in terms of classification, initially, if we look at phylum Annelida, they've been divided into three, which is easy for us to remember. One is Oligokita, secondly is Polykita, and the third one is Hirudinea. So, but however, the classification has been changed recently, where Polykita is come out as one class of its own, but Clitellata is the one that is merging of the Oligokita and also Hirudinea. So it's called, new class is called Clitellata. The Oligokita becomes subclass and Hirudinea becomes subclass again. And they erected the new class called Macaridia. Although in Macaridia there is no more members that is existing in the world, many of them, or most all of them, has been in fossil form. So, but they are in taxonomy, you had to count on that as well. Not only the one that is extant, the one that is living now, but those who are phased out into fossil is also taken into consideration when a revision of a classification is been given. The old curriculum is easier. Yeah, this is the old one, but you don't use it anymore, okay? Because we had to follow on the development of taxonomy. In some cases, I ask you to follow the old one. If you do this, is also correct, but you have been outdated. They will call this class Oligokita as seen as the old name, and class Hirudinea as the old name as well. So it's not really good in the sense that if you keep on uh, showing following the old classification, it seems that we are not aware of the new classification that been announced to be used by the zoologists. Okay, so there are certain exceptions there, like protozoa. I don't want to mix you up with the new classification until certain time, but with Annelida, I reckon please use the new classification. The only larva, if it was sexually produced, is known as trochophore. But as you see, it's only applicable to Polychaeta, to the polychaete worm, which is marine. The freshwater worm or Oligochaeta, including the earthworm and tubifact, as well as the leeches under Herudinia, they don't have larval form. They undergo what is called direct larval development. In direct larval development, the young produced are more like the adult. It's only they are small in size. So no larval stages. This is the trochophore larva for the Polychaeta. So it looked like other trochophore as well, because when we go into mollusca after this, trochophore is one of the main larval stages in mollusca too. Okay, in class Polychaeta, this is the kind of worm that you see in the marine environment, whether they are lying on the surface of the seabed or they are making burrows or burrowing themselves in the sediment on the seafloor. So this is the famous Neris or bedworm or clamworm, depend on what they call it locally. This is the bedworm in Malaysia. We use this as a bait, as a umpan for the angling, and they are selling it in about 10 pieces, maybe for 5 ringgit or something like that. And Neris has many different genus and species. It's a very big taxonomy under this Neris, and it's too heavy for me to give even the family to the student. So this is a Neris, which is under class Polychaeta, and the worm of genus of class Polychaeta, we call it generally as polychaete worm. So in Polychaeta, the head part has been modified largely into several appendages, which is used for feeding mainly, because you can see here the jaw. Jaw mean if you have jaw, then you are carnivorous, and the jaw is embedded in the pharynx that can be withdrawn and can be shoot out during the process of feeding. And there are palps and peristomium and all this. And you see the parapodia, which is the kaki yang ada pada bahagian tepi worm tersebut, dipanggil sebagai parapodia. And the body is segmented, as you see. The first segment is called peristomium, then come the normal segment. The normal segment normally can be identified by the presence of parapodia. First segment, second segment, and third segment. And you see the segment here in real animals too. And polychaete come in different shape and form. They can be like worm like this, and this one stay in the tube called sabella, which is a peacock worm. And this one has something like the caterpillars with bristle all over. And this one is kind of the one that is carnivorous with a good jaw as well, but burrowing inside the sediment. And the main one that we always see good example of polychaete worm is from genus Neris. and this is quite common in many parts of the world. And these are the slide of the different morphological outlook for class Polychaeta. The different is usually influenced by the family and also the species difference. Sorry, and I've been trained into this, and I've been in polychaeta taxonomy for 30 years. So we always had to look at the anterior part, which is the head part, that is different from one family to another. And to look at the species, you might have to dissect even the parapodia to see the type of parapodia and the type of kite that is attached to the parapodia. Some of them have gill like this, like Unicidae, they have the gill here that been used for respiration. So class Polychaeta, you don't have to remember the characteristic, but I just want to highlight. The body is as usual. You can see the segmented body is provided with parapodia, and at the end of parapodia, you can see the kite. And this parapodia is normally seen at the side of the body. The coelom is also very wide and divided inside by the septa. There are no suckers found in Polychaeta. The segment is very distinct, and the number of segments vary from species. So different species, different number of segments. Mainly dioecious, there is a male and female polychaete worm. However, no clitellum can be found. What is clitellum? Clitellum is another specialized segment that is developed in class in Phylum Annelida by the earthworm and also the leeches. It's for reproduction, clitellum. In, in Polychaeta, they undergo metamorphosis, that means series of larva development, and the main larva is called trochophore. This is the head part again of the polychaete worm. And as you can see that this is a bigger zoom picture of the head part. There is a pulp or cirri here. There's a pulp. Pulp is characteristic of the phylum of the taxonomy as well. The number of tentacular cirri is also the one that you count when you identify the species. Pharynx that can be withdrawn and can be shoot out during the feeding, and also the jaw at the end to catch the prey. And in terms of segment, there's an eye spot that can be seen on the head part, and there's some sensory pit as well. In terms of segment, I say the first segment is not provided with parapodia, and it's not called the first segment, it's called peristomium. And the whole front part is called prostomium. Prostomium, peristomium, and then segment 1 and segment 2. Segment is usually with the presence of the parapodia. Parapodium is singular, parapodia is the non-single version of that, plural. So if you cut the animal, the polychaete, to see the body coelom, you can see that the inside of the body is made out of coelom, and the alimentary tract is being hung on by certain structure here. But the white one that you see is the coelom. Okay, and from here you can also see the neuropodia. The parapodia. The top part is called notopodia, and the lower part is called neuropodia. And at the end of the parapodia, you can see the presence of the setae. Okay, presence of the setae. And this is very characteristic and of the taxonomy of the species. So again, under the microscope, you will even see the head part clearly with the eye, tentacular cirri, and antenna, and also pulp. And this is when the pharynx is being inverted out. And you can see the jaw, the pulps, and the eyes again. The parapodia, if you cut it off and make a section of it, you can see the notopodia and the neuropodia. Noto is on top, bottom one is neuropodia. And there's a seta. The shape of the setae here is very taxonomic. It's different from one species to another. You can see even clearer under the scanning electron microscope. If you look at it to see the presence of the parapodia. Parapodia is used for locomotion, moving about from one place to another, and also for respiration. I said the polychaete is quite a good characters that taxonomy see for the identification of genus and species, and these are all some of the variation of the polychaete. It can be in the form of crochet, it can be like a comb, it can be capillary like this, like the hair, it can be pedal-like, or it can be compound seta and also unkindness. So they are different. No need to remember this, but this just to show the variation that you see in the animal that used by the taxonomists to identify the species. Right, in terms of feeding, the polychaete, class Polychaeta show a wide variation of feeding. There can be any of these. Reason being the different wide range of feeding is because of the great diversity of the representative of polychaete worm in class Polychaeta. One-third of the members of Annelida are represented by the polychaete worm. So they can be herbivore or omnivore. They can be carnivore as well. They can be mucus feeder. They can be mucus bag feeder, or they can be deposit feeder. So all these are the different variation of the feeding form that you can gather from class Polychaeta. So normally the different feeding type are linked with the modification of the head part. If they are carnivorous like this, they will have jaw that can be everted out to catch the prey and bring it back inside in this species of Glycera. But this one, with the head part, is made out of something like 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 a branch of a leaf or something, where the water flow will be with plankton and everything will be trapped by this structure, and this is called suspension feeder. And with a mucus feeder, normally are tube-like; they live in the tube. So what you see are the radials and operculum that you see jutting out from the tube, and they use the ciliary mucus that are available by this radial to trap the food. And same as this radial, I got the leaf like it's a radial, and there are this is like a Christmas tree polychaetes. They are found on the dead coral normally, shaped like a Christmas tree. And this one with radial like this definitely is for suspension feeders, the trap of particles, plankton and everything from the water column. And there are some that are burrowers too. They burrow. It's only the tentacular series that is seen out. But if you come near to it, it will withdrawn into the tube. Everything will be withdrawn. And these are suspension feeder, or there can be also deposit feeders. That's why they have a larvae called trochophore. And the sexes are separate male and female. And sex cell have been developed inside the metameres, inside the segment. And there are tube that have been used to release the gamete, female and male gamete. Or in some radical species, the release of the gamete is through the rupture of the body wall. There's a phenomenon called cycolysis. Cycolysis is the body wall just ruptured, pecah, and to the release the gamete, and the animal died. So in most cases, fertilization of egg by sperm occur outside in the seawater, and the end product is a trochophore larva. But there are some that are also showing internal fertilization, where the egg mass are kept in the one of the segment, and when they are fertilized, brooding will take place until they reach certain size before they have been released to outside. One thing about reproduction of polychaete worm, they undergo what is called epitoky. This is very interesting feature that only applicable to polychaete worm. Only certain family and certain genus, and in the family also certain species that is showing significant epitoky. What is epitoky? Epitoky is the change in the head appearance of the worm during the reproductive period. And this epitoke worm will normally become active during certain time of the year when the sex cell mature. So in a certain part of the country, like mentioned in Fiji, the water of the seawater turn red during the breeding place, during the breeding period, when the male and female will swarm up to the surface to release their gamete. And there are many epitokes of the species that is swarming, and these changes in the appearance of the head part is called epitoky. In some species, the portion of body containing the sex cell break free, this is cycolysis, and they are engaged in swarming and spawning. Swarming means they are million in numbers, and some of them leaving the sexual portion behind to regenerate a lost sperm. So this lost part can be regenerated back through asexual reproduction. Swarming of the species, certain group narrate have the history of swarming, and many reports have been mentioned about swarming of the Nerididae in certain part of the world, especially the islands in the Pacific, such as Fiji. Swarming generally occur at night and is related to the moon lunar cycle. Some species will perform a kind of nuptial dance, swimming in circle as they spawn. And in some species, the worm liberate a luminous secretion which produce circle of light on the ocean surface as they dance. It's just this, they call it dance, but it is the behavior, breeding behavior that have been shown by the polychaete worm. So the most famous swarming polychaete is of the genus of the general name of palolo worm. This is a name sometimes applied to all swarming polychaete. But if you Google the tropical palolo worm, you can see that they come in millions to the surface and they've been trapped on, and the Fijian people are eating it as part of the delicacy. So next is about subclass Oligochaeta. So Oligochaeta, including here the earthworm and also the tubifat worm. Earthworm terrestrial, the tubifat worm in the water, but fresh water. Polychaete are all marine mostly, few in the brackish. So in subclass Oligokita, body has few kitae, but you don't see parapodia. So you can see now the difference between Polykita and Oligokita. In Polykita, there is parapodia. In Oligokita, no parapodia. The xylem are there, divided by septa. Sucker also absent. Body segment can be seen very clearly. They are hermaphrodite. However, in oligokid, many members are hermaphrodite. In polykid, they are dioecious. So with one or two pair of testes and ovary at certain segment, clitellum present. Clitellum is a segment for reproduction. No metamorphosis, so no larval stages. Example here is tubifac and a swarm. So there are many info about tubifac because they are important food source that been processed in ornamental fish, in aquarium fish. So I don't want to mention that, but you read this, it has a good knowledge about this tubifac. Even some students become interested in the culture of tubifac because you can make money by selling the tubifac worm to the aquarium shop. So this is to be packed warm when it's clamped together. So this ready for harvesting already. And in some of the big industry, they freeze dried it and put it in the like a bottle and sell it in the aquarium shop. So they're mostly attached to they like the slush kind of environment. So you need about a filthy environment in order to grow to be facts, because they feed on that for their food. And this is the picture of tubifex, close picture through the photographic image of Warren. And this is what I say, the one that been sold in the aquarium shop. Tubifex worm have been processed and they keep it freeze dried. When you want to feed to your aquarium fish, you just open the cap and give them right away. When they are in water, they will become moist again. Apart from tubifac, the main members of the oligokid is also earthworm. We all know earthworm. They live in burrows, and you have seen earthworm all this while. If you come from the kampung or village, you see more of this than if you stay in the urban area. So if you look at the picture or the image of the earthworm, this is the part called clitellum. Okay? Sometimes called saddle dulu, clitellum. But the body has no parapodia, but you can see there are a lot of setae on the body. And these are the genital papillae. This is the male generative part. And in order to have a female generative structure, the transfer of gamete into the female, they have to go crisscrossing. So one facing the other way when they are in copulation. Copulation means the coming together of the two worms that are hermaphrodite for the transfer of the male gamete to the female. And the number of segments varies also, but segments have a few of the aperture or pores for the male and also excretory pore and everything. So what you can see from the body is the segment. And from the segment, you can see the setae, which are rambut halus yang ada pada badan, tak ada parapodia. You can see the anus and you can see the clitellum. Oligokid are herbivorous, that means they feed on leaf, dried leaf, and other plant form that found on the substrate and the burrows. The alimentary tract is adapted for cosmopolitan, that means wide range of feeding. And they have this special worm has cellulase. That means they can digest cellulose. Cellulose, kalau you bagi kertas kat dia, they have cellulase and can then digest the newspaper easily. And they have chitinase as well. which are the two main enzymes found in the body. All oligochaete are hermaphrodite. Fertilization occurs internally. Male and female will come together and they will have exchange of the gamete. In species on the male and female reproductive pore are different. For example, in Lumbricus terrestris, testis is located at segment 10 and 11 and will produce sperm. Ovary is on the segment 13 and become mature and discharge out through the oviduct. So epidermis contain glands that secrete reproductive material, and this glandular segment is also known as clitellum. Clitellum only will be well developed the segment during reproductive periods. So these are the clitellum, male 4, and they had to face a different direction. Copulation exists in a swarm. Copulation is the transfer of sperm to the female. When the two worm mates, those become attached at the ventral surface. Anterior or male will become in contact with opposition direction. Mucus produced by the clitellum, body wall, and genital state. You see the picture before this. After copulation, clitellum will secrete a substance to form the egg cocoon. So male that is deposited in the female will be deposited inside the cocoon, and cocoon will be sealed, and fertilization occurs a few days after spawning. So direct development, it comes out as young earthworm. Not a good picture production of egg cocoon. So this is the egg cocoon. You might not be aware of the earthworm cocoon because they are embedded normally in the soil or hidden under rubbish, and inside there is the egg. In Oligochaeta, there are many, like the earthworm, they feed on organic vegetable material. So in tubifact also, they feed on organic matter. Earthworm, as we know, is beneficial in up to 18 tons of soil or acre, or per acre annually, which is great capability. And next subclass is, it's not class, it's subclass Hirudinea, aquatic and terrestrial. Ada yang di daratan kau pacat, yang di dalam airnya adalah lintah. This Hirudinea, they have no kite and propodia. So with the structure of kite and propodia, you can differentiate easily the three different major representatives. In Hirudinea, body coelom have been reduced. They are not divided by sex and also in oligochaete as well in polychaete. Because present in posterior sucker, and each segment is formed by many annuli. So on the body, instead of segment, you see the annuli more than the segment itself. All Hirudinea are hermaphrodite, and clitellum are also well developed, same as earthworm. No metamorphosis, so no larval stages, is direct development. So these are the example of the leeches that you perhaps be seen in the Google. This is the medicinal leeches, leech lintah yang digunakan untuk tujuan perubatan. And this is the ASEAN buffalo leash. So if buffalo goes into the water, you can see this leash is the main leash that attached to the buffalo body. And this is the picture of the leash. It has prostomium, and it has the mouth, and they have the segment of the body. But within the segment of the body, you can see also small segment here. This is called annuli. This is called annuli. So the clitellum are here on this part. Okay, the annuli is not shown here, but you can see the sucker, where it attached to the hoof. Okay, some has anterior sucker as well as the posterior sucker. The land leash, or locally known as pachat, is found in the forest. You go into the forest and you're not careful with your attire, you might get a pachat that is smuggled into your pen. And they are called bloodthirsty leash, and they're quite troublesome. When they are there, they suck your blood, and when they are fill up with blood, they drop from the skin. So they can go through the barrier easily if you don't have the repellent. Majority of the feeding of the annelid, for the Hirudinea lintah, majority is temporary ectoparasite. Ecto mean luar, temporary, because when they are full, they drop from the host. And the prey can be a small invertebrate, including fish as well. Feed by sucking blood after puncturing the host using the hard teeth. Di bahagian depan mulut dia ada gigi yang keras that is developed within the buccal cavity. Large volume of blood will be sucked at any time, and the blood is kept in liquid form through the secretion of hirudin. So, leash culture is to get this hirudin. Hirudin will keep your blood in liquid. It won't coagulate. So, ini adalah untuk tujuan perubatan. That's why some of this leash is been extracted for this hirudin, and it goes into the pharmacological purpose. Stomach, apart from functioning and digestion, is also storage, and digestion is very slow. This is the teeth that you see in the front part of the mouth of the leash. Reproduction, like the oligochaete, leeches are also hermaphrodite and cross-fertilized, although fertilization is internal, and sperm are enclosed in dalam satu pundi yang dipanggil spermatophores. Clitellum present and reproductive organ of the male. The penis and the vagina is well developed in the leeches. Okay, they are on the higher development. Copulation involves the transfer of spermatophore to the female organ and later carried to the ovary before being fertilized. So, in other species, sperm are not enclosed, not in spermatophore. They are transferred directly into the body but through copulation. Court-shaped display can be seen in some leeches. You can find this in Google. The fertilized eggs are also deposited in cocoon, same like earthworm, and secreted, the cocoon that been secreted by the clitellum. Cocoon is buried in mud or affixed to aquatic plant. The young emerge as small copies of the adult. So this is to show the reproductive form of the male and female of the earthworm. And this the cocoon. of the leeches. This is a kind of courtship display between the two leeches. They hug one another, male and female, in order they are hermaphrodite. The hugging is to match the reproductive paw so that male gamete can be transferred to the female. And then they are sealed in the cocoon produced by the clitellum, and the cocoon is normally buried in the muds. So now, learning all the three major groups. Before this, it's called three major classes, but now it's one class Polychaeta, two subclasses Oligochaeta and Hirudinea. So if we look at this, there are a few characters that we can use to differentiate them. First, on the development of the head capitalization. Here in Polychaeta, they have all the necessary sensory organ that is well developed. In Oligochaeta, this sensory organ is reduced, and Hirudinea also reduced in terms of feeding structure, just simple anterior. But you see in the Polychaeta, they have the pulp, they have cirri, they have the pharynx, they have the jaw, so they are well established. If you look at the parapodia or setae, it's well developed in Polychaeta, no parapodia but few setae in Oligochaeta, no parapodia and no seta in Hirudinea. In terms of sexuality, the separate sex in Polychaeta, dioecious, hermaphrodite in both Oligochaeta and Hirudinea. Reproductive investment, they produce many small eggs, few large eggs in the cocoon, and few large eggs as well by the Hirudinea. Fertilization, they release the gamete to the outside to the seawater, external, and Oligochaeta is through the cocoon, and Hirudinea is the transfer of sperm inside the body. Development is external also. They produce larvae called trophophore within the cocoon and within the cocoon. The hatching stage, trophophore, here is direct development, is small adult, they call it. Habitat is only marine, mainly marine, freshwater or moist soil, freshwater or moist soil. Feeding modes, there can be a wide range of feeding for the Polychaeta, but for deposit feeders is only for Oligochaeta. And while for Hirudinea, they are blood-sucking ectoparasite or predators. So the 9 of them, try to remember 5 as well. Before we finish, the ecological, medical, and economic important. In terms of this aspect of beneficials, important of annelids, they are filter feeders, many of them, predatory and detritivore. Hence, these different food feeding guilds is good for the long development of the food chain. So food chain will be comprised of the simple feeding type to the highest feeding type, which is a carnivore or predatory. Some are ectoparasites, and like the leash. They also have prey for bird, fish, and others. This is mainly oligochaete worm, or to be fact, or earthworm for the birds. Only a few eaten by human is a palula worm during the swarming by the Fijian. Earthworm help to aerate and mix soil, and medicinal leash used to help stimulate vein generation. So medicinal digunakan untuk nak buang darah kotor sebagainya. As you see, if you go to private practice that use a leash for medicinal treatment, you can stand the leash on your neck or something like that on your face. Is been reported to be quite effective as well. These are the common medicinal leeches. that people use. Hirudo medicinalis, the one that I shown you, is the worldwide common one, and Hemopsis sanguisuga. So these are the two that is of medicinal importance. Right. So I rush it through. The thing that you have to see to look back into the notes and try to read it later on, because this will come out in the second test later on week number 12. So this is week number 7, and we are going into the vacation or break in semester break, before you come back on week 8 during the 1 week after the Raya. So I've been given the mandate to Azlan to find out whether you are in the position to receive the lecture if you are at home. And those who are staying in, maybe from Sarawak, as I know, Sabah, I'm not sure. Sabahan might have the chance to go back. But the Sarawakian at the time being is not in the list. So you all have to, those who are Muslims that celebrate Raya in the campus, or those that